Assembly and dismantling. Trampoline storage. Trampolines are normally folded and stored in the equipment room. This competition trampoline, which has been folded, is around 2 meters high. Once assembled, this trampoline requires 2 meters headroom and is usually higher than the entrance to the equipment room. It requires just less than 3 meters 50 by 80 centimeters of floor space. When storing several trampolines, each piece of equipment requires an additional 50 centimeters of space. 2 trampolines require a depth of 1 meter 30. When storing 2 or more trampolines, there are 3 storage possibilities with different space requirements. As has already been shown, the trampolines can be aligned directly alongside each other, in a roof shape and in a V shape. The last arrangement requires the largest amount of space and should therefore be avoided. According to the nature of the equipment room and the other items stored there, it may be prudent to position the trampolines lengthwise or diagonally. The trampolines can easily be secured with a lock and chain to avoid inappropriate usage. In order to avoid injuries when taking the equipment out of the equipment store, the following points should be observed. To maneuver the trampoline out of the storage room, it must first be pulled. In doing this, there's a danger that the trampoline may roll over a foot. At a total weight of almost 500 weight, a weight of over 50 kilograms rests on each wheel of the roller stand. An accident such as this can be very painful and can even lead to injury. For this reason, only experienced people should be allowed to maneuver the trampoline and begin pushing it out as soon as possible. Trampoline assembly. An adult with adequate physical strength can assemble a competition trampoline alone. All the steps demonstrated here can also be carried out by 2 or more persons. When the trampoline has been pushed into the correct position, it must then be levered from the low into the high position. To do this, the person carrying out the assembly first takes firm hold of the lever pointing upwards on the lifting roller stand. Before taking hold of the red safety knob on the lifting roller stand, the safety knob is pulled out completely and the lever moved slightly to the side. The now unsecured lever is grasped with both hands and pushed downwards as far as it will go. Shortly before the lowest point, the lever is blocked by the safety bolt. The safety knob is pulled out again and the lever brought into a horizontal position until the safety knob clicks in audibly. Check that the lever is properly in place by jerking it firmly. Repeat the same process with the second lifting roller stand. The trampoline's tension chains are usually tangled up. They are disentangled so that the upper chain hangs free. This step can be carried out later. The next step is to first grasp the internal leg section, then the external leg section, and pull it out slightly. The internal leg section is now positioned against the external stand, resulting in a triangle with the frame. Now, with slight pressure applied on the external leg section, the trampoline can be tilted. In doing so, a firm grip must be maintained on the internal leg section to ensure that it does not fall on the ground. The trampoline is tilted far enough to allow the internal leg section to easily move past the external leg section and be placed on the ground. The back should be maintained in a straight position throughout if possible. Through pressure on the free hanging leg section with the foot and subsequent pushing back of the leg section at the same time as pushing down the center, the trampoline is tilted to the point that the leg section on the floor slides through underneath until it's hanging in the air. Now the leg section is pulled out as far as possible, and the hinge of the leg section pushed down until the tension chains are taut. Make sure all the links in the chain are straight at this point. Then the chains on the other side of the trampoline can be attached in the same way. Make sure that the chains are not twisted by briefly allowing them to hang down. When the chains are being attached, the tops should point down beneath the trampoline. Now the trampoline is placed entirely on the stands by lowering it using the lifting roller stand. The levers of the lifting roller stand are again grasped at the end, the safety knobs pulled out, and the lever moved far enough to the side to allow the roller stand to be easily pulled out. When pulling it out, keep hold of the lever of the roller stand and the upper safety bracket. The bracket can tilt downwards and, if it's not being held properly, land painfully on the hand holding the lever. The roller stands are put away in the equipment room with the external sides facing upwards. If the roller stands are joined together with a sturdy tube, they can be transported and stored more securely. When removing the roller stands, the stands slide outwards on smooth floors and the chains automatically tighten. With very new trampolines, as in our case, or dull floors, the stands do not slide out automatically and the chains are not taut. In this instance, help must be given by pulling out a stand. The person conducting the assembly now slightly lifts the first end section and pushes it into the vertical position. After stepping around the end section, it's slowly lowered down. Both foot stands are then placed inside the relevant sockets. Then the second end section is folded down in the same way. But because this fully extends the trampoline bed, the end section must be put up via the vertical position before the person conducting the assembly steps around. He takes hold of the footstand and uses it to pull the end section down until he can grasp the frame. The end section is released. With a little practice, it can be even easier to fold out the second side. This involves the assistant climbing up onto the trampoline and lifting the end section up to the vertical position. Then the assistant climbs around the end section and steps on the diagonal stand. The tension of the trampoline bed means the end section can be maintained in an upright position. The assistant now walks down along the leg section, taking the end section down along with him. Non-slip shoes are an absolute must here. The end section must be caught before it reaches the horizontal position to avoid damage to the hinges. After folding out the end section, the footstands are placed inside the relevant sockets. This is facilitated by pressure applied on the footstands with the lower leg. Once the 4 hinge protectors on the frame pads have been located, the trampoline assembly is complete. When dismantling the trampoline, the first thing to do is to remove and fold away the 4 hinge protectors on the pads. Then, on one side of the trampoline, both footstands of an end section are taken out of their sockets. Using both hands, the free trampoline end section is now raised. At some point, the bed tension takes over, and a tight grip must be maintained on the end section to stop it from flying over too quickly. The bed tension rapidly recedes, and the end section can now be taken on the other side and lowered away in a controlled fashion. After disengaging both footstands on the second trampoline end section, this is also folded in. Now there is barely any tension on the bed, and pushing the end section upwards requires more force. The next step is to insert the roller stand into the central part of the trampoline. The safety brackets must be held up in order for this to happen. The height of the spigot on the roller stand can be adjusted by moving the lever. The trampoline is jacked up by pushing down the lever. The red safety knob on the roller stand is pulled out and the lever moved downwards into the vertical position. The safety knob is released and checks made to ensure that the safety bolt has been securely engaged by jiggling the lever. The same procedure applies to the other side. To fold up the trampoline, the chains on one side must be disengaged on the same side as the hinge of the upper trampoline end section. To loosen the chain, a tug on the chain in the direction of the hinge is sufficient. The chains can only be properly disengaged if they are loose like this. The person dismantling the trampoline then lifts the leg section up in front of his hips and moves forwards. This tilts the trampoline in the vertical direction, but it can only tilt to the point where the leg section on the floor can be comfortably lifted past the leg section hanging downwards. If you go too far, you will no longer be able to grasp the leg section on the floor. After lifting the lower leg section, the trampoline tilts into the vertical position. Both leg sections are pushed down against the trampoline. The upper stand secures the lower one. It's important to ensure that the frame in the center of the trampoline clicks into the roller stand hook. The locking device also comes in a T-shape. It secures the frame more efficiently than the hook-shaped device. So that the chains are not in the way when the trampoline is being lowered, they must be tied up. The upper chain is brought through the lower chain and hooked up to itself. The same procedure is followed on both sides. When the trampoline is being lowered, the person conducting the assembly first grasps the lever of the lifting roller stand and secures it in this way. Now the red safety knob is pulled out. The lever is now disengaged and is moved to the side. It has to be held with both hands. Shortly before reaching the vertical position, the red safety knob must be pulled out again to be able to put the lever in a vertical position. The safety knob clicks in audibly. Check that it's properly engaged by jiggling it around. The second side is lowered in the same way. The new lifting roller stand, safe and comfort, dispense with the complicated lever system and are lifted up and down with the help of a hydraulic mechanism. After lowering, the trampoline can be moved away. The school trampoline shown in the following film is smaller than a competitive trampoline and has roller stands instead of lifting roller stands. This means there are several differences in its assembly and dismantling. If possible, assembly should be conducted by several people. 2 adults can comfortably transport a trampoline if one is pushing and the other steering, although the view is restricted on one side. If children are given clear instructions, they can also help in the transportation of the trampoline. While the supervisory adult pushes from behind, 2 children walk on the left and the right of the trampoline and guide its progress. They should walk closely behind the front wheel, but maintain sufficient distance from the rear roller stand to avoid injury. Assistants must stand on both sides of the trampoline to ensure an unrestricted view of the entire area in front of the trampoline. One person should always be responsible for supervision. The leg sections are folded out just as the competition trampoline. The person conducting the assembly first takes hold of the internal leg section and then the external leg section. The leg section together with the frame form a triangle and the trampoline is tilted by applying pressure on the upper leg section. The interior leg section is slowly placed on the floor and the center of the trampoline is tilted into the horizontal position as the leg section on the floor slides through underneath the trampoline. The leg section is received by the second assistant. The chains are extended into a taut position. Keeping the back straight, the more powerful assistant now raises the trampoline on one side, where the other removes the roller stand as quickly as possible. The trampoline is then released. Releasing it sooner would damage the roller stand after a while. This step is simpler if other experienced assistants are on hand. The trampoline is raised by 2 assistants while the others remove the roller stands. They must be given clear instructions in advance. Just as in the case of the competition trampoline, both end sections are now folded out. It should be noted that this trampoline is not as high or as heavy as the competition version. As two assistants push up the trampoline end sections from inside, they facilitate the lifting up from outside. Experienced participants can also be helpful, in particular with the second end sections, by grabbing hold of the footstands while the end sections are being folded out and pulling them downwards to make the process easier. They can also immediately engage the supporting struts. Finally, the 4 hinge protectors are fixed into place and the assembly is complete. When dismantling the trampoline, the first step is to open the hinge protectors. Then disengage the footstands. Care must be taken to ensure that the first end section does not flip over when it's being folded in. Both end sections are put down slowly and not allowed to fall. The roller stands are retrieved from the equipment room and inserted into the center of the trampoline. They are positioned at an angle, so that both assistants can then take hold of the trampoline at the leg sections. Lift it up, all the while keeping their backs as straight as possible. The roller stands swing into a vertical position. Experienced participants can also help with inserting the roller stands if need be. On the side of the hinge of the upper trampoline end section, the chains are now pulled taut by lifting one leg section. The trampoline is pushed away and tilted. Both assistants take hold of the leg section on the floor and lift it up. The trampoline tilts into the vertical position. Both leg sections are pushed down against the trampoline. The trampoline is then pushed into the equipment store. Care should be taken to ensure there is nothing in the way. A trampoline should only be stored away by adults or experienced participants. Not stopping in time or moving too rapidly into the equipment store can cause injury. Once a trampoline has been assembled, it must be secured. Firstly, vaulting boxes are positioned at the front and heights compared. Alternatively, as in our example, special safety platforms can be used. Then mats are placed on the boxes and the trampoline. Then more gym mats or vaulting mats are placed around the trampoline. In amateur sports practice, 2 trampolines in a row could be covered with gymnastic mats. As a manufacturer of trampolines, Eurotramp recommends the exclusive use of original accessories. Further information on original accessories can be found at www.eurotramp.com. The use of boxes as a medium for the overlaying of safety mats is not envisaged on the part of the manufacturer. However, the use of boxes as a substitute for the original safety platform by Eurotramp has been a common method for decades to secure the front sides of a trampoline in school sports practice. The possibility being demonstrated here is also recommended and accepted by German insurers. When using boxes and standard mats measuring 2 by 3 meters, great care must be taken to ensure that the mats are always placed correctly on the trampoline and on the box. This is the only way to guarantee safety when the equipment is in use. Standard gym vaulting boxes have a height of 1.10 meters. This is ideal for the safeguarding of school trampolines. However, in the case of competition trampolines, this box height means the safety mat is in a sloping position. A height of at least 1.20 meters is required here. In order that the safety mats lie horizontally, 2 gym mats can be used to make up the height difference. Very small children can be assisted in their ascent and descent of the box by a set of steps. The initial session usually involves exercises to help students get used to the equipment. It's usual here to facilitate ascent via steps from one of the front sides. Trampolines for synchronized moves must be positioned at the same height and be placed at a distance of 2 meters from each other. Safety checks should be carried out before using the trampoline. The frame padding should be intact. The fixing straps should also be undamaged. The rubber cable in the upper section of the leg brace should be intact. They ensure that the leg brace remain firmly in the sockets. A trampoline bed is suspended by 118 steel springs. If a student jumps onto the springs, the open ends of the steel springs can cause injury. This is why these open ends must always be facing downwards. If the steel springs have been placed the wrong way around, or if they need to be replaced, then this should be undertaken immediately. When replacing a steel spring, it must first be disengaged on the frame side. This requires some force. It can then be easily removed from the bed side. It should first be secured to the bed side, taking care to ensure that the hook is pointing downwards. The spring is then secured to the frame. This again requires some force. Now the hook is pointing downwards. The 4 chains of a trampoline must all demonstrate the same level of tension so that the trampoline can perform to its optimal capacity. When fastening the chains, the tip of the hook should point downwards. The chain must be adjusted so that every second link is aligned the same way. The lock nuts and tension device must be properly tightened so that the chain alignment does not change. The tension of the chain can be checked by moving it backwards and forwards. In the case of older trampoline models, the stitches that bind the nylon bands of the bed together can be worn out. They should be checked at regular intervals. If the bands move apart when someone is jumping on the bed, injury cannot be ruled out.